of Freilichen Chanukah. This is Dirshu Mishnah Berurah as we continue. The halachas of Kriya Shema as it relates. Originally it was Erva, then it was Saya, now it was Meiraglayim, and now it's Meiraglayim that unfortunately one is having an accident in the middle of davening. Siman Ayin Ches says the Machaber coins this Siman Mishan Esarich Latal Mayim B'Shas Kriya. Someone who needs to use the bathroom, as we're going to see right now, doesn't mean he just needs to use the bathroom. Unfortunately, one has an accident during Kriya Shema. What does he do? And it's going to be a bit of a chazara back what we learned in Siman Samachay. What is the story if one has a break in the middle of Kriya Shema? How long the break is allowed to be, when he will allow to be continued where he stopped, and when he'll have to go back to the beginning of Shemoneh Esrei, whereas over here it's going to be that he's going to have to go back to the beginning of Kriya Shema. So it says the Machaber in Seval Vayakayr V'Ischil Meraglayim Jason Al Berkov. So when it was in the middle of Shema, and what happens? Meraglayim starts dripping down his legs. Stop until it finishes, and then he continue reading. Even if your clothing got dirty, we'll see this only refers to your undergarment. If an overgarment got dirty, that's going to be a different issue. And it's wet enough to make something else wet. Tefeach is the halachic term that it is wet, and when you touch it, it can make something else wet. There it is. Because it is covered with your garment, therefore it is okay. Of course, if it's not covered, the Mishnah Berurah will explain it's a problem. Let's say the Meiraglayim falls onto the ground. Then as the regular halacha, like we learned in Siman Ayin Zayin, of Meiraglayim being on the floor, and then you have to distance from it 4 amos. Says the Ramah, or you have to distance from it the amount of the shear that we learned in Siman Beis, or wait till it gets absorbed in the ground. The Machaber says, even if the amount of time that you waited, whether you waited for the Meiraglayim to get absorbed in, whether you waited perhaps for someone to bring you a garment to cover yourself up, and the amount of time that you waited was that you could have finished the entire Shema, you do not go back to the beginning, you pick up from the place that you stopped. Says the Ramah, some say if you waited that long, you must go back to the beginning. V'chein ikr paskins the Ramah. As we paskin in Siman Samachay, number 1. And number 2, it all goes by the person himself. It is subjective to each and every person. So if one takes 60 or 90 seconds to say Shema, he only has a 60 or 90 second break before he's going to have to go back to the beginning. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sivkatan Aleph Hayakairi. As we keep on seeing, all Dvarim Shebikdusha are created equal, and here even Shemoneh Esrei, one has to stop until the water stops dripping. And even if you can have to take a big break, the amount of time to finish the entire thing, you can have to go back. Even if it's going to cause you to go back, still you have to do that, because you're not allowed to say Shema Shemoneh Esrei etc. with the Meiraglayim dripping down your legs. Once it stops, then you're allowed to say Shema, you're allowed to resume Shemoneh Esrei. Even though underneath your legs it's going to be wet, it's still allowed. But comments of Mishabur Sivkat and Gimel, if your clothing is wet, it's covered over with a beged that's clean, only the undergarment got dirty. Let's say it seeped through, that even the pants, even the skirt, even the outer garment is dirty. Change your clothing or covered over with another garment. Now the Mishnah Berurah splits. You can't stop in the middle of Shemoneh Esrei and go and change your pants. Keep on davening. Even if the Meiraglayim again is on the outer garment, since it's only Nisa Drabanan, and you're already davening, they're like gazu in such a scenario, and therefore you continue davening. Marachik Sivkat and Dal, it says in Mishnah Berurah, so now if the Meiraglayim is on the floor, you should distance yourself. Ayin be'alacha del imian tefillah. Kam ki nachal la'achmer la'archik b'nafal loyal ha'aretz kamali Kriya Shema should be the same thing for Kriya Shema. Amay Sivkat and hey, oyimant and I shivlo b'karku shir yisbar like mama Siman Beis, or wait for it to get absorbed into the ground. Kach sarich leimer. If you have to wait for the Meir Aglayim to get absorbed into the ground, that amount of time is going to be the amount of time to say the whole Shema. You're going to have to go back to the beginning still. You should not be concerned. Avol in this damilo came be birchos kriyishma, then toivyeshi yarchik amehevelo yamted al bliya bakarka. By the birchos kriyishma, don't just wait. You're allowed to move around. It's better to move around away from the Meir Aglayim so you can continue right away the brachos and not cause yourself to have to go back to the beginning because you don't have the svar of Karya B'Tayra because it is a bracha. It's a birchos kriyishma. Ubediavad im shav birchos kriyishma ligmer tefillah. Let's say you messed up and even by the birchos kriyishma you waited the amount of time to finish the whole thing. In Concise Dirshu Mishnah, you do not go back. As we have seen. And now the Ramah paskind that what is the halacha? If you waited the amount of time to finish it, you should repeat v'chein ikr sivkat and vas says the Mishnah Berurah. Ayin le'osim misamachei Mishnah Berurah be'arlach the be'arnu usham kol prati dinzeh. Le'osim misamachei ratzalaimer explains the Mishnah Berurah sivkat and zayin. The tali ha'ikemru annos beisa hefsek chayzel reish. What is his tali on? If one was be'oinis, it was an unavoidable mishap. Then he goes back to the beginning. B'chanami ha'inisu. You waited for water to be brought to get rid of the Meir Aglayim. Or you waited for ala abliyo, you waited for it to get absorbed the beikarka, near a lead, you do not go back. Why? Because the evidence, the Arshitas Rishaitim, the sphere lahu that they hold, you do not have to distance yourself from Meir Aglayim, because you're in the middle of Shemana Esrei. Not called an Einis unless with the stabbing of Chichla Mayim Levada Yashir Ligmar Kula. Ayin Be'er Alacha, like one Siman Samach Chav Zayin Mishnah Berurah Sham, or Meishesh like Chayli Amatavnev Tam Mimenu Tam Meir Aglayim. That happens all the time. Ayin like one Siman Pei Mishnah Berurah, and we'll see that Mirza Hashem. We'll pick it up from Siman Ayin Tes in the next year. B'siyata Dishmaya.